welcome to my channel. My name is Paulina Enchanted, and on this channel we talk about anything magical, mystical, lore, and all things magical. If you like this type of content, please give me a like and subscribe, and here we go. Today's story is so interesting and compelling. I can't wait for you guys to hear it. It is a very interesting vampire encounter, and the dates of it makes it super compelling. So let's go ahead and get into it. It's from a Reddit user called Revolutionary Pie 55223, and he posted this story 3 days ago, but it's actually an older story. It looks like he got it from a website called abovetopsecret.com of someone who posted it back in like 2008. So it's an older story. I remember back in the day when people would write their experiences on these little blogs here and there, when the internet wasn't what it is today. Let's go ahead and dive in. I admit I have written to Anne Rice about my account of my encounter with a vampire. I find it interesting that she first wrote Interview with the Vampire in 1973. The book was published in 1976. I didn't read the book until 1980. Upon reading the book, I felt she may have met the same person I met in 1973. So this is an encounter that's, an old encounter, which makes it kind of more interesting. I have never received a reply from her. I do realize that she probably gets thousands of emails per month on her website. I wrote to her in 2001. I have told my story several times to several different people and always get the same response. One of disbelief, although my mother and sister sometimes still tease me, asking, do you remember when you dated that vampire? I am now 51 years old. She must be much older now because this was posted in 2008. 34 years ago, I was 17, and that summer I was working for the U.S. Forest Service as an intern through a government program called the Neighborhood Youth Corps. We planted trees and dug potential fire break lines in the forest of northern Idaho. A firefighting crew came into town midsummer since it was particularly dry summer and was on standby just in case they were needed. Among that crew was the most beautiful young man I had ever seen. He had long blonde hair, perfectly symmetrical features. He reminded me of a more refined version of Robert Plant of Led Zeppelin. So you have to look up Robert Plant back in the day because I'm sure he's a little older now. He was tall and handsome and everything I ever thought I would give up my virginity to. I spent a lot of time just looking at him. He apparently noticed and began talking to me when the crew came into town from their forest stations. He asked me out. I was ecstatic. We met for dinner several times, always late, after 10 p.m. He never ate, urging me to order whatever I would like to have, and he would have a glass of wine. I never knew how old he was, but the drinking age in Idaho at that time was 19. He also had a European accent of some sort. He said he was from Germany. We would part at the restaurant. He never made any attempt to kiss me, which I thought was very strange since every other guy I had dated prior was always all over me. One night, I suggested we meet at a place very near my apartment, as I planned to ask him back to my house afterwards for whatever. You got it, I wanted him. Fast forward to my apartment. After opening a bottle of wine and chatting, He said he wanted to take me into his confidence because he really liked me. He continued to say that he doesn't usually tell anyone the truth about him because it scares people. Okay, I felt the first flash of fear. He then went on to tell me that he was from Germany and was over 400 years old, that he was a vampire. I didn't know what to say, so I asked him, "What do you mean, a vampire?" He said he was from an aristocratic family and was chosen and attacked by a vampire in his family's estate. He was made a vampire by his attacker. By virtue of what he had become, he left with this other vampire and traveled all over the world. He came to hate him so much that he branched out on his own in France after many years. I asked him if he drank blood and killed people. He paused and said that yes, sometimes he chose to take a human life. Okay, at this point my fear was turning to terror. He was either a psychopath with a really interesting story, or he was the real thing, and I was about to die either way. I told him he was scaring me. He said he thought he probably would, and that was not his intention. It was hard for him to make friends, and when he felt he could trust someone, he would tell them the truth about himself, since his lifestyle was not ordinary and needed the acceptance of what friends he had to maintain a friendship with them. He also told me that he knew I was expecting to have sex with him, and he would agree to that, but that sex was really no longer pleasurable to him, although he knew it was pleasurable to normals. Okay, by this time I was really freaking out and said, "I think you should leave." I remember he looked really sad. He said of course he would leave, but he wanted me to think about being friends with him. I said, "I don't think so. You need to leave." He got up slowly and picked up his jacket and reached inside his pocket for a pen and a paper. I was really shaking by this time and thought his every move was a ploy to kill me. But he wrote his phone number at the camp on a piece of paper and said, "If you change your mind, call me," and then he left. When he walked out the door, I was trembling so badly. I could barely dial the phone. I called my mother to come get me, to take me home that night. I told her I just ended a date with a really creepy, scary guy. I paced the floor until she got there, listening for any sounds that might indicate that he was breaking into my apartment. I told my parents, and they said I did the right thing by calling them. My dad said, "It's time for you to move out of that apartment," and I did. I never called the guy, and I never saw him again. His name was Manfred Krishner. I have never forgotten him. I thought he was a psycho until I read Interview by Anne Rice. I wondered for 28 years now if he is who Rice called Lestat. Believe me or not, there you have it. So I've seen Interview with a Vampire, so it's literally the same storyline, or it's very close to like the story. So she had this experience prior to the book coming out. That is very interesting. But yeah, actually I had another commenter on this Reddit thread. They go by Oof Too Humid. They actually added more to this, okay? They said the original poster also added this comment. "I hope you can understand. I didn't have any context to put my experience into. My knowledge of vampires were what I had seen in the movies, like with Bela Lugosi as Dracula. There were no underground cultures of fang-wearing goths or the internet to look things up with. There were no novels to reference to. There were no computer games, and Star Wars hadn't even come out yet. Industrial light and magic wasn't even heard of. Dungeons and Dragons was just something starting that college kids played. I was only 17 and the world was a much different reality than now. Why was he drinking wine and not the waiters? I don't know. People lie about their age, laugh out loud. I am at that age now, but I don't tell people I am 400 years old. And no, I don't recall him having fangs, and believe me, I looked once he started telling his story. I have had a long time to speculate about him. Maybe the real vampires don't fit into Hollywood or popular fiction category of the mythology. I do remember that he used the word normals and not mortals. Why did he frighten me so badly? It was his demeanor, his honesty. I thought he was going to kill me or make a vampire of me. It was like seeing someone shapeshift before your eyes with no discernible difference in their physical appearance. Like seeing something you never believed could be real, like a ghost or Bigfoot. Why do we get chills in the presence of the supernatural? You just feel it. It makes the hair on the back of your neck stand up. Oh, that's true. Ultimately, I believed him. That's what scared the hell out of me. Before the night of his confession, I sensed there was something not right or strange. I thought it was because he was from another country, or that's what I was telling myself. Yes, I was attracted to him sexually. I was not in love. Women that love or marry murderers, I am apparently not of that persuasion. All I know is this. When I read Anne Rice's first book, there was something familiar about her telling the history of humanized vampires that rang familiar with that he told me of himself. Suddenly, I had context to put my experience into. And having read that book for the first time, I had some regret that I didn't ask more questions. I have no answers, only the memory of my experience. I find that super interesting because this experience happened to her before Anne Rice's book was published. And when she read it, she was like, oh my God, this is exactly what happened to me. So what do you guys think? Do you guys believe vampires are real? Do you think this story is real? Let me know in the comments below. I definitely think the story is very compelling and interesting. And I hope to see you next time. Keep spreading the positivity. Bye-bye. Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3. Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3. That's so good. These are called envy apples. They're delicious. Today, we're talking about vampires. Or a phone. Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3.